I'm going to speak about the challenges and some of the proposed solutions. It's not always you can't always get 100% success there, but these are proposed solutions for some of the main challenges. Let's start. A little bit about app in China. We exist since 2013. Been helping about 90 apps so far entering the Chinese market. We deal mainly with the operation, distribution, promotion on the third-party Android stores. As for myself, I've been doing business in China for the past 9 to 10 years. I've been living in Beijing for 3 years, built a company there. Now I'm traveling back and forth. I've also been advising through another website I have, Startup Noodle, for startup companies going to the Chinese market, and also doing some mentorship. So I want to talk first about the market as a whole, how the market looks like. So the market is getting saturated. The number of devices that you see here, this is the number of mobile devices, so cumulative number. It's 1.3 billion. You see that the growth is slowing down. You see this also at the rest of the world as well, but here we're talking about huge numbers. If you want to look at Android versus iOS in this market, so we're talking about iOS having between probably 100 to 150 million devices. Android market is 650 to 700 million devices. It's a Chinese market, so give or take 50 million, but that's the numbers. Some about the market complexity, if you don't know it. I'm sure some of you know about it. Google Play is blocked in China, and when somebody tells you that they put their app on Google Play, there is a reason they see no downloads. And also, in the terms of the users, even if they had Google Play on their phone, they don't use it. They use third-party Android stores, and the estimation talks about 300 to 500 of those. It's not cost-effective to go to all of those, but it's still, I'll show that it's a ranking of which one are the best ones. You see the icons there of the largest 20. And here's the ranking. These are numbers from August. That's the latest I have. And this list is comprised of 3 main groups. The first group is internet giants in China. These would be companies like Tencent, Baidu, 360. These are the top 3. The second group, which is the largest, is actually phone manufacturers. And we're talking about Xiaomi, we're talking about Huawei, Vivo, Lenovo, Meizu, these kind. They just preload the store on their devices. Though users can download as many stores they want and have this as icons and then download from wherever. The third group, and that consists of the 3 mobile carriers in China, China Unicom, China Mobile, China Telecom. These are not the largest store. It's in the number 12 here and 18 and 19. So they're not that strong. The strongest one is Tencent. You see that at the top. And an interesting fact, if you look at number 10, that's Wandojia, was actually acquired by Alibaba about 3 or 4 months ago. And the reason that they went to that store, it's the first one which is not belong to any of the other group. It's totally independent. The official Alibaba store is way down. You still have, even if you have, though if you still have 1% out of the Chinese market, still a lot of users, but if you want to go on top of the table, then you see that Wandojia here has almost 4% versus 0 point something for Alibaba right now. So this is the reason they did it. As I said, I'm going to talk about the challenges. I'm going to talk about something that we hear from a lot of our clients about hacked and unofficial distribution of apps, and I'm going to explain exactly what that is. A little bit about the game regulations and overall on regulations of what we're seeing in the market for the past 3 years. Payments in China. How do you do promotion in China? How does that work? And some about lack of transparency, which we'll go on later. So first of all, what is unofficial or hacked apps? These are 2 different categories. Unofficial app means that your app is already in the Chinese market. You see that on the store, but it was distributed unofficially. You didn't do anything, and it's still there. The way it works is that the stores are actually scraping Google Play Store and then bring it to their store. From there, it's distributed to other stores in China. So you end up of having it all over the place. Hacked apps is somebody that took your app, rebranded it, put their own payment solution, ad network, whatever, enjoying your branding and makes money on your back. Solutions for that would be, if we're talking about the unofficial distribution, there isn't really a way to stop that, but once it's already there, there is a way to go through a process called reclaiming, which means that you're reclaiming your account from the store. So you ask them, there's a process you need to go through, and we do this for our clients, and helping them gain access on that account. For hacked apps, it's pretty much a technological solution where you build a shell around your app, and that prevents them from hacking your app. I'm going to go through a case study of how you recognize a hacked app. So obviously, if your app is there, you know that it was hacked or unofficially distributed. But there are all kinds of signs that you can look in and track and see what's the situation now of my app, how many downloads, which account was that, things like that. But how do you see some of those things? We developed a tool called App in China or Not, where you can put in your app name, and that would search for duplicates on the Chinese stores. This is our website, and I did a search first on an app called Tasker. This one is an app that gives you the that automates your tasks on Android, and you see it does a search on the stores. I see there are already other stores than used to. Okay, this morning there wasn't Xiaomi, so it was probably redistributed again. So you see that I've searched for Tasker. Tasker, I found this app on a thread about from Android Authority, and that was one of the best apps for 2016. I put in the name, and I see that the app is already in the Chinese market in several stores. You see Baidu, Xiaomi, 360, and Wandojia. I'll get back to the presentation. Yeah, I searched for Tasker. We've done that. And these are the stores that came up when I made a presentation. That was Baidu, 360, and Wandojia. Let's first look at how Tasker looks on Google Play. So Tasker is a paid app, okay? That's already a sign, a red light of how come it's in the Chinese market, because in the Chinese market, there is no paid apps category. So that's already something that raises questions. If we're looking at Baidu search results, you see Tasker there, you see the same icon, it's got description in Chinese. And if you're going to the store, to the app page, you see that there is a branding of somebody else's on the screenshot, somebody uploaded that with the same icon, looks the same, with the same screenshots. If you're looking at the other stores, let's look at 360 again, you see Tasker, same icon, different screenshots. Now this can be a different version of the app from previous. It's something you need to look into, but this is another sign. If you look at the red arrow there, this says 有广告, which means has advertising. The original Tasker doesn't have advertising. This one does. Again, that's another sign that the app is there, it was hacked, something is wrong. Wandojia, same story. We've got here the two red squares that I marked. The left one goes for advertisement, and the other one, it's a little bit hard to see. Oh yeah, you can't see the text here so much. So there is a Chinese text says official, and next to it there is a question mark. Again, this means that it was probably scraped. Non-official distribution. A little bit about the regulations. First, I'm going to say a few words about how in China the category for games and the category for non-game apps, these are perceived as two different categories. When you're talking to Chinese people, they wouldn't say a game app, they would say a game. They wouldn't call it an app. So when they're saying an app, it means non-game app. And this is also, at the regulations, there's also different categories. So over the years, we've seen the regulation going gradually tightening and tightening for the two types of categories. And now, especially for games, since 2010, since July 2016, there are new official regulations about games in China. And there are two processes for that. One is the simplified process, and one is the standard process. The simplified process is more for casual games, and the standard process is more for hardcore games. But in addition to that, the game copyrights must be owned by a domestic or a Chinese entity, can't contain any sensitive gameplay elements for politics, military, stuff like that. It's kind of goes without saying in China, but it was never official, and now they're enforcing this, so this became much harder now for game to distribute your game in China. This is an outline of the simplified process. The whole thing that you see here is about, let's say, a month and a half, but I'm saying this is the official one. The way things work, it can take much longer. If you're looking at the standard process, this one is even longer, 4 months minimum, perhaps even more, for preparation before your launch day of your app in the Chinese market. So prepare for that. Let's go for the next challenge. Talking about payments. If you have no Google, you have no Google payments. How do you buy an app? How do you make money from that? China has a lot of payment solutions, where the most popular one for now is Alipay, but WeChat is catching up, and they also have their own payment solution. Regarding the categories I mentioned yesterday of game versus non-game apps, the stores would require that if you have a game, you'd probably need to implement their own payment solution. While if this is a non-game app, you might be better off with Alipay, and then you can just distribute it to a couple of stores. But then that requires integration, and therefore that's a lot of APKs to manage with the different payment solutions. Some of them, if you're looking to then transfer the money out of China to your company, there are ways to do it. Some of the stores also pay out. It really depends on case-by-case basis. App promotion. Unlike in the West, that's a challenge because promotions in China works differently than anywhere else. In China, you basically pay your way up. You can buy a featured spot. You can see an example here for one of the stores. There is pricing for that. For that in that time would cost that much. And this is one thing that doesn't exist in the West, where you, buy Facebook ads, then put it on Google, taking them to Google Play, and then go up the tables. Here, it's very direct. That's the way that sometimes it works. It's pretty expensive. Another way to do, which exists but less common, is pay per download. The challenge here is finding the right channel, and the solution for that is anything but testing to see that which one works best for you. But that leads me to the last point and challenge, which is lack of transparency. Unlike in the West, where you have very clear tracking system, you can put in, what works, what doesn't, how to do it, and there's a lot of knowledge out there. In China, that's not the way it works, and you have to find the right tools that work for you on a certain store. And even then, be very skeptical of the data that you get and ask the right questions. As example, we had clients getting a ratio of around 67% for download to installs, while in the West it's 90-something%. And this is, and when you're coming to a store and say, why is that happening? There's just because there isn't really an explanation for many, many, many things. And this is what makes it tough and brings you to slower release of your app and doing your marketing efforts. So these are longer iterations. So again, here, it's a lot of testing and asking the right questions and speaking to the right people, finding the right contacts to get you through those cycles and getting better and better in that. that's it. If you have any questions, you can ask me now or right after the lecture. We also have Ofer here, our China GM, also open for questions. Thank you very much.
Anyone? Question? I have one question.
Sure.
About the educational field, the education apps, is there any easiest regulation for education apps that come to teach language, for example?
So, indeed, education is in a higher priority in China, and Chinese gives a lot of emphasis about education. We see a lot of companies who has, let's say, English apps coming to us, and then when it comes to the market, it's a pretty large category. Still, in the formal regulations, there is no change. You don't see that. And sometimes it also depends on who you speak with at the store. Okay, it can vary, but officially there's no difference.
Any other question?
Yes. First of all, do they like traveling?
Okay.
And should we translate our app to China language? Because I don't know, do they understand English?
So, Chinese people like traveling, and obviously there is a lot of more travelers now coming out of China to the rest of the world. It's a growing category. They have a different characteristic of traveling. Again, this is not related to apps. They go on large groups, and this is usually how they work, how they travel. To your second question, an app that is not translated to Chinese would probably not succeed in China. This is kind of the bottom, unless there is very little text and things that are very common. I don't know, like the word okay. Then maybe, but then you still need to look at things like, instead of not only localization, but also something called culturalization. If it's a game, that would be different characters, it would be different colors, different game design, different gameplay. So it's a whole thing. It's not, but the bare minimum would be translating to Chinese.
Okay, thank you, Shlomo.
Thank you very much.